We've talked a lot tonight about development in and around town and surrounding areas. There are examples of areas being annexed into town, while other areas that have been within town limits for some time are still lacking services such as paved roads, sewer, and water. Please speak to your thoughts on annexing properties into town and how you will address current and future needs of residents.
All right, thank you. First off, before I start this, I do want to say every person at this table, if you certainly know the compensation, everybody at this table loves Highlands, and we are not in it for the money, especially if you understand what you get out of this. So I completely agree with Buzz in that respect. So my answer to this is relatively simple, and I don't, there's always instances where you need to reevaluate, but what I will say, unless there's extreme instances and town benefits, there shouldn't be annexation and expansion of services and utilities outside the city limits until all taxpayers in town have been afforded those services. And again, it goes back to infrastructure, it goes back to sewer, it goes back to a paved road versus a gravel road for erosion purposes, et cetera. So, but like I said, my stance is relatively simple. Everybody that's in town has been paying taxes in town for a very long time in most all cases, and I think those services need to be expanded within before we start even considering something going outside and annexing in. Now, again, like I said, there could be instances where as a board, and hopefully a unanimous board at that point, would want to rethink those elements for things that we've talked about, whether or not it's workforce housing or it's some other element that is environmental that is affecting our town that we want to have, that we want to bring them in. But initially, what I will say is that I'm opposed to it until we expand to everybody that's already here.
Yeah, so Jeff's 100% spot on right there. And I will say I'm just a little bit confused by this question because it sort of implies that the town is actively looking for contiguous land, I guess, to annex. In the last 12, 13 years, there's been 3 instances where the town annexed property, and one of those instances was Dog Mountain about in 2011 or 12. And then a couple years ago, there was a individual residence on Arnold Road that came to the town wanting to be annexed, and I think that was like EMS protection or something. And then the Old Edwards Inn farm wanted to be annexed, and that had something to do, I believe it was sewer. But so there was only 3 instances where we annexed a property, and that it was not done. It was those individuals coming to the town asking to be annexed. So I don't see annexing as being a priority going forward, and it certainly hasn't been a priority in the last 10 years that I'm aware of. I've never heard that in any meeting. So, but like Jeff said, in Highlands, and this is pretty amazing, only about 40 to 50% of the residences in Highlands are attached to the sewer system. So that's a huge need, as Jeff had said, and I think again we don't expand outward until everybody in the town is taken care of, and that's a costly proposition too, because getting underground utilities to homes is not inexpensive around here when you look at rock and other obstacles to make that happen. So, but it was the taxpayers that have invested in the infrastructure that Highlands has, and it's the taxpayers that will be taken care of first. And then I also want to address road paving as another point of confusion. So in the last 10 years, we have made road paving a huge priority in Highlands. And this year, for instance, there's 2 roads that are going to be paved soon that were state roads that the town has taken over in Wagena Place and I guess a portion of Upper Lake Road. To my knowledge, there is no other town-owned roads that are gravel at this point. The roads that are gravel in the town, that's not to say they shouldn't be paved, but they're not in our jurisdiction to pave. They'd be private roads and state roads. So, again, I do feel every road should be paved, especially when you look at all the work we're doing. And going back to Pat Gleason with Mirror Lake, gravel roads are a huge source of sediment in those bodies of water. So it's something we need to to address. But as far as the town goes, we've been very diligent in making sure that all of the town-owned roads are paved.
I'm in agreement with Brian on this. I don't think we need to annex anything else. We need to take care of our residents first, the people that live in the town of Highlands, and make sure that we are giving them the services that they deserve. And really, that was kind of, I was looking at him, what roads, because most of the time I feel like they are private roads that are still, they choose to be gravel, and so they're not in our jurisdiction. So I agree that that is really how we should be handling things and making sure that we can get the sewer and that people need, and that would be my stance.
Well, I'll agree with Brian. I think unpaved roads in Highlands is a talking point. Currently, Brian, there are 2 roads in Highlands that are on the Powell Bill map, and the Powell Bill is what the state allots us some funds for. Only 2 roads inside the city limits that remain unpaved, except for the 2 that Brian spoke about that are in the works. The 2 that are unpaved are Manny and Warren. As far as town water is concerned, there are less than 6 people inside the city limits that do not have town water, and that's by choice. They have their own well, water's available, they've chosen to stay on their well rather than pay for town water. And if you don't have it, you don't pay for it. So I think this, really the talk about infrastructure and oh my God, what are we going to do is kind of a misnomer. As a town, we are on top of it. Extending sewer availability is a priority as far as I'm concerned, and I think the town, as opportunity arises, and as Brian alluded to, sewer is there's 2 devils with sewer. One of them is the soil depth to rock, and the other one is topography. If you're going up a hill, you got to pump it. If you're going down the hill, it's gravity flow. But in the middle, if you've got rock, you got to have dynamite. And it's just a lot of it is very, I won't say cost prohibitive, but it is very costly. Our sites, as far as the town are concerned, are on getting sewer into the Mirror Lake area, finishing that up, and possibly even going up Webmont, just the other side of on the veranda, up to the right. I'd like to see as many homes as possible inside the city limits on sewer. We do have the processing capability. Our plant can accompany all homes inside the city limits. As far as annexing is concerned, annexing requires, or we have required it to require, in the past, 100% agreement from the homeowners that are being annexed. I think Dog Mountain is a prime example, and a lot of times it takes years for homeowners to come together and be annexed. I'm not a big proponent of annexing. As a matter of fact, is the one time that we did it most recently over on Arnold Road, there was a house there that was part of one lot in a 4-lot subdivision. The rest of the town board saw fit to annex that one parcel in. I voted against it because now we have one parcel stuck out in the middle of nowhere that we have obligation to serve at least by police. We may not have a water line there, we may not have a sewer line there or anything else, but we've obligated ourselves to serve this one lot because the rest of the town, and I agree, the rest of the town board felt that getting that one lot and that one house annexed into town and having the sewer availability, which it did have, getting it on sewer. My dissent in that was that we did not essentially require the other lot owners, two of which were Old Edwards Inn, to join in with the annexation. So I voted against that, and that's the only reason I voted against that particular annexation. Otherwise, I am like the other folks. I'm not a big proponent of annexation. It's got to benefit the town, number one, and the people that are being annexed, number two.
With regards to infrastructure, I agree that taxpayers who have been paying taxes deserve the services that the town provides, like town sewer, but that is a very expensive endeavor, and it's just something that we would need to weigh against other expenses presented before us and determine what is the priority. Is it, and as Jeff mentioned, if it's a case where there are environmental issues, then it absolutely should be the priority. But just to spend money to get everyone in town access to sewer may not be the best endeavor, just to say that everyone in town has that. I do think it should be a priority, but we would just need to weigh it in consideration with everything else financially that the town wants to do and wants to move forward with. I do think it's great that everyone in town has access to reliable water. And again, with the paving, as was mentioned, I love that the town is pursuing paving even private roads just to avoid the erosion control and to keep the sediment out of our streams and out of our water sources. Annexation, I'm not a proponent for actively pursuing annexation or expanding our commitments, but I think there are opportunities where it would make sense. And I agree that there should be a complete shared or complete financial ownership of the property owner who's looking to be annexed. And that's not only for the immediate installation, but looking at the revenues that will be produced, and will that pay for the maintenance 10, 20 years down the line of that line, or will the addition of the sewer line, the water line to these properties that are outside of town, will that ever eventually become a burden of the taxpayers who are already in town? I think that's something that needs to be considered long-term before considering annexation. But from what I've heard and before tonight and tonight, it doesn't seem like that's a huge issue and not something I think we should proactively pursue.